how we are managing our, deployment.
Mm-hmm.
For example, AWS, we are using AC3
Uh-huh.
tools and all, right, for deployment for content,
Correct.
Docker and containerization.
Right.
So, in Azure, what are the methods we use to deploy?
So, whatever deployment model, if you talk about, maybe if you talk about the EC2 or a Dockerized solution or a container orchestration, if you talk about the container orchestration like Kubernetes or any other orchestration tool, all right? So same thing is available into the Azure also. So like there, you have EC2 or something. So here we have virtual machine. In one virtual machine, you can have your JDK installed. You can have a different software, like let's say if you want to install a code coverage tool, or if you want to install a different tools and technologies, then different tools, then within that VM you can install it. And even if you want, you can install your any kind of a app server or web server, right, in that particular VM, and you can deploy it like generally we do with a VM, right? And after that, what was the problem with the VM, and how we can come up with a containerized solution, right? Because in VM we cannot have more than one JDK. Like let's say if I'm talking about, let's say for example, if I want to deploy more than one application in the VM, and let's say my application 1 is using a JDK 8 and my application 2 is using JDK 11, right? So I cannot do that in VM, correct? So that was a constraint of VM. That's a different topic itself. Maybe we can discuss it later. Okay, so we'll come to the point. So VM and Dockerized solution. Even here also the Dockerized solution is available. The containerized solution is available. You can build your application using the Docker and you can containerize it. Okay, and if you talk about the container orchestrator, right? So container orchestrator, we have AKS. Azure is having AKS, that is Azure Kubernetes Cluster. So first thing is Azure Kubernetes Cluster, and the second thing is ACR, Azure Kubernetes Register. Okay, like generally, if you talk about the Docker, then you must have heard about Docker Hub, right, or Docker images. So generally, what we do, we stored our images. We store our images into the Docker Hub, or maybe our own private repo or public repo. That's up to us. So similarly here also, Azure provide every organization, they can obtain or they can create their own ACR container registry, not Kubernetes registry. Sorry. So that's Azure Container Registry. Okay. So being an organization, I can create my own ACR and I can have my images ready and I can push it continuously to that ACR. Like let's say if I'm keep on developing, then I might be having a different version of container images, and then I can push it into the ACRs. Okay, and whenever I want, I can go to the previous version. I can pull it off, like as we do into the GitHub or any kind of repository management, right? So here we have ACR, here we have AKS, Azure Kubernetes Cluster. So Azure Kubernetes Cluster is also providing you a namespace, okay, where in that single namespace you can have multiple pods, okay, and in that pod you can deploy your container images, right? You can deploy your images. So that's how we can deploy. Let's say if I'm talking, so this is a containerized deployment, which I'm taking help of ACR and AKS. And another deployment model, like let's say if I'm not going for the containerized solution, if I'm going for like a standalone deployment, I don't want to do a containerized, like let's say just a normal web application. I'm building a web application and I can deploy it into any kind of a Tomcat or any kind of a server like Jetty or any kind of application server or web server, that I can have it into my VM and I can deploy my solution over there. So that is one part. And the third kind of solution is that's a web app, which we will be looking tomorrow in the hands-on. So that's a web app or a mobile app. Let's say if you want to deploy your mobile application, then you can create a mobile app resource. If you want to create a web app, then you can create a web application, web app. Okay, it's a web app service. It's a software as service. where you can build your application and you can deploy your model, or you can deploy your application. Did I answer your question, or you have any doubt?
Yeah, I got it. So
Okay.
here, majorly we are using Kubernetes clusters to deploy and doing containerization.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's one of the model. That's one of the model. But let's say if you don't want to use a containerized solution, then you don't need to go to the AKS or ACR. You can go to the normal VM or normal web app development, web app deployment. Yeah.